Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Following the lead of many other shows, this year's East LA CAPE is going digital. The East Los Angeles Comic Book Art and Pop Culture Expo, or CAPE for short, was founded in 2016 by a group of pop culture and comic book fans who grew up in East LA. Headed by Peter J. Malini, who owns Nostalgic Books and Comics in San Diego, California, the show is dedicated to creating community and bringing together artists and vendors from our surrounding neighborhoods so that we can all enjoy the art that our community has to offer, and to connect you to independent artists so that you can support their work. This is the third episode of our virtual Artist Alley, where we will be highlighting our community of artists and vendors. Maxi Rodriguez is a Latina professional plus-size cartoonist who is self-published. She is currently residing in the small town of Norwalk, California. Her work includes Chronicles of a Chubby Bunny, Plus-Size Girl Magic, Brown Girl Awkwardness, and Chibi Bunny's Rules of Boundaries. Maxi currently has 2 degrees, a BA in graphic design from Cal State University Dominguez Hills, and an MFA in comics from California College of the Arts. Thank you so much for joining us here today, Maxi.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So let's start from the beginning. So how did you get into art?
I actually started in kindergarten. Let's see, my mom used to buy me picture books because I was such a bookworm growing up. And I would draw little stick figures, and then as I got older, I just started copying what I saw in my books, and I would just like draw them out everywhere. And my mom would just buy me old recycled computer paper. And from there, I would just doodle everything I saw. That's pretty much how I got into it.
Great. So what sort of things are you selling, or what kind of services do you offer?
Well, I am a graphic designer, so I do offer graphic design services like business cards, flyer designs, t-shirt designs. I can also do those. Right now I can't print them, but I am in the process of that. I'm also a cartoonist, so I sell my comic books that I make myself here at home. And I sell them usually at Comic-Con, Zine Fest, and Art Walks, but shenanigans. So I have to sell everything from home. I also sell stickers that I create here at my house, that I print them out. I cut them on my Cricut. Let's see, what else? There's like so much that I have. I also have buttons. I also do commissions, prints, and I recently started learning how to do card decals, soaps. I think that's about it for now. I will be posting updates on my website and on my Etsy as I go.
Nice. Tell me a little bit about this MFA in comics. I've never seen a degree specifically in comics. How does that work?
I said the same thing when I saw it the first time. Like, I was actually my final year at Dominguez Hills. My advisor, she gives me this flyer, kind of just slips it to me and says, there's an MFA in comics, right? And I'm like, what? So basically there's actually 3 schools that offer an MFA in comics. There's the MFA in comics at the Cartoon Center, the Cartoon Studies. I'm butchering the name. It's basically a cartoon study center in Vermont. They're offering an MFA in comics. There's the MFA in sequential art, which is in Savannah, Georgia. They're also offering that, but that's more towards if you want to go into Marvel, DC-esque kind of comics. And then finally, the MFA in comics at California College of the Arts in San Francisco, where I went for about 2 years. Basically, it's a low residency program, so that's a cool thing. You're only in San Francisco for 1 month, and then after that, you come home, you take all your classes online, you resume life while you're studying to get your MFA, and you spend your final semester in San Francisco taking your final courses, including a pedagogy class where you learn how to teach, how to create a syllabus if you want to go into teaching comics. We also had to take a professional practices class where we had to learn about laws, trademarks, copyrights, finances, how to do our taxes if you're a freelancer. We also take a professional cover class, a digital comics class where we learned how to code our comics online. And then you have to, in order to graduate, you had to read your comic to an audience of people and basically present it and just read it to everyone. And after that, you're done. You get your MFA and you're considered a master in comics now.
Oh wow, that's really cool. So is that something you always wanted to do? You wanted to get into comics, or was it just, you know?
It was kind of like on and off kind of thing. Like when I was a little kid, my mom used to bring me like the newspaper clippings of Calvin and Hobbes, Peanuts, all those little comic strips, and I would just make my own little comic strips. And then one day my mom bought me a Wonder Woman comic because she's like, here, see, women can do stuff. Go make stuff. And then as I got older, I kept making comics. I stopped during my undergrad because I thought, okay, I'm going to be a graphic designer. That's the goal. I graduated. I couldn't find a job in my field for about a year. And I was working a seasonal job at an amusement park. Like if you read some of my comics, you'll actually read some of the shenanigans I was put through working in that job. And I eventually did find a design job, but they only told me it was temporary. So after 7 months, they let me go. I had to go back to my seasonal job. And I remember my mother-in-law was like, what about that master's in comics? Don't you want to be a cartoonist? I'm like, I don't. I'm like, is that possible? She's like, yes. And I was already discouraged from going because of, student loans. And I'm like, well, how am I going to do it? I don't have the money to pay for a master's. And she's like, because my mother-in-law's Catholic, she's like, Dios sabe lo que va a hacer. Pon sus manos. You're going to grad school. I'm like, okay. And, as I went through the program, I realized this is something I want to keep doing. So it's actually thanks to the MFA program that I was able to do comics and self-publish, because they actually teach you how to self-publish your comics.
Yeah, that's really neat. I feel like self-publishing has really opened the doors for so many people, and I feel like it's given us an opportunity to see so many stories that we ordinarily wouldn't have seen, because there's no gatekeepers. If you know how to do your own comics, you can tell your own stories. So tell us a little bit of your stories. Tell us a little bit of the inspiration behind a lot of these comics that you're self-publishing.
Okay, I'm pretty horrible at describing myself, so bear with me, ladies and gentlemen, and people of all genders. So the story behind my comics, Chronicles of a Chubby Bunny, was originally called Chronicles of a Chubby Girl, and she did not start off that way. I had a webcomic series called Kids Need Help, among other things, which was basically stories of my friends and I getting into shenanigans. And one day I created this little comic strip where my insecurities come out because I'm in a long-term relationship with a physically fit guy, and the stuff I get. Basically, this comic strip was my boyfriend gets a package in the mail, and it turns out it's this skinnier, prettier girlfriend that has a bunny suit, and she doesn't have, depression and anxiety, and my self-esteem issues are just like, oh god. And of course, in the comic strip, my character goes up to my boyfriend's character with her little bunny ears, and she's like, "Am I still cute?" And of course, he's like, "Yeah, you'll always be cute." And that one actually got so popular. I was like, okay, maybe I should do more comic strips like this. So I started doing comic strips about my boyfriend and I, our relationship being a mixed size couple, a physically fit dude being with a plus size woman. And again, the comic was originally called Chronicles of a Chubby Girl. But then a friend of mine, apparently she was friends with a guy who was a fan of my comic strips, because she brought it up one day to him, and he's like, "Wait, you're friends with the Chubby Bunny artist?" Because in the comic strip, my character, she's called Chubby Bunny because she always has her little her little bunny ears. And my friend's like, "Yes." And he tells her that he loves like my comic strips, shows them to his girlfriend because she's also a plus size girl. And he's like, "You have no idea how like funny her comic strips are. They make us laugh and they make my girlfriend feel good about herself." And I'm like, okay, we're gonna keep at this. But I was always called the Chubby Bunny artist, and I'm like, that's not what I want to be remembered by. But I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna play this. So the comic strip was officially changed from Chronicles of a Chubby Girl to Chronicles of a Chubby Bunny, and the story basically stuck. The title stuck, and I've been doing this comic strip since 2015. And when I applied for the MFA in comics program, I submitted my Chubby Bunny comics for my portfolio. And thanks to those comic strips, I got in the first time I applied. And when I was doing my MFA, I was doing another comic book because I was like, I don't know if Chubby Bunny's the right project to do for the MFA program. But my mentor was like, why don't you do Chubby Bunny? I'm like, I don't know. Kind of, I don't know if she's good enough yet. Because it was basically a story about me. And I thought, I'm probably not interesting enough to tell a story. But my my mentor from school was like, no, you got to do Chubby Bunny. I was like, stubborn. I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. So um, the program has this mentor handoff where we switch mentors during the new semester. So my old mentor gave my new mentor my stuff, and he's like, okay, this is her thesis, but this is Chubby Bunny. So please convince her to switch to Chubby Bunny because this has more potential than her current project. So during the whole spring, my mentor was trying to get me to switch to Chubby Bunny until finally I'm like, okay, you know what? Screw it. Let's do this. And I whipped out 50 comic strips in 3 weeks. Submitted it to him, submitted it to my homework assignment. And from there, Chubby Bunny was my thesis project. I polished her up. I changed the story around. Despite the fact that my boyfriend's character was more popular than mine, I'm like, yo, seriously, look at this. And I remember I had to do an exhibition show for my master's program. And my boyfriend flew up to San Francisco to see it. And while I was out in class, he showed up with my stuff. And the chair of my department was like, "You look familiar." And then takes a look at him again, and he almost drops the beer bottles. And he's like, "Oh, you're a handsome stallion." And I'm like, "Yo, Chubby Bunny. I'm the reason the story exists." And then we're at the show, and people are looking at him, and they're like, "You look familiar." And then he stands next to his character's drawing, and they're like, "Oh, you're a handsome stallion." I'm like, really? It happens everywhere, I swear. And then for my final semester of the MFA, in order to also graduate, I had to do a thesis defense. So Chubby Bunny was my thesis defense, and I got out because of Chubby Bunny. So Chubby Bunny got me into grad school, and then she got me out of grad school. And ever since then, I've been making her comics. I've been drawing them, and they've become like these fictionalized comic strips to these journal comics that I now create for people to like relate to and reflect on, despite the fact they're very funny.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Thanks.
So, how have you been dealing with the pandemic? How has that changed the way that you do art, or the way that you kind of just been interacting with your fans?
Well, let's see. Pandemic stinks. I'm just like finally just saying it. I'm like, this pandemic stinks. Because as much of an introvert as I am, I kind of miss just going out and meeting my fans personally and just shaking their hands and just like trying not to keep telling myself, don't screw this up, don't screw this up, don't screw this up. Um, but I still get a lot of like fan messages online on both my Instagram, my Facebook, my Twitter, and the way I interacted with them hasn't changed much. I'm still like trying to be as I'm friendly. I try to respond to as many as I can, but because of my workload, I'm like, ooh, I'm like, I don't know, I'm gonna do this. And I guess because of the pandemic, my messages just keep going up, and I'm like, oh God, I'm gonna disappoint someone. So I try to like answer as much fan mail as I can. Um, I always let my fans know that I'm open to some discussions if they have any art they want me to look at. And I do get that a lot. I have a lot of fans that are like, hey, I drew this. And I'm like, ooh, pretty. And I've even made friends with a few of my fans because they like art so much. And they're like, can we be friends? And I'm like, okay, sure, we can totally be friends. I'm down with that. I'm totally cool with that. And I'm like, oh God, they're gonna see how much of a screw up I am. But yeah, with this pandemic, I've been trying to keep busy. Like I recently learned how to make enamel pins using Tricky Dink. I've also learned how to make card decals because a lot of my fans are like, we want to put Chubby Bunny on our cars. And I'm like, yo, are you serious? You sure you want this ugly mug on your cars? And they're like, what ugly mug? I'm like, this one right here. And they're like, yes. I'm like, okay, then I'll learn how to make card decals. To heck with it. And because my boyfriend is home, because he currently stays in Arizona for medical school. Before the pandemic, he managed to come home, and he's currently under quarantine with us. So we've both been learning how to make soaps. And my mother-in-law was like, hey, why don't you make some Chubby Bunny soaps? I'm like, we got to make a mold for that. And she's like, just look for some bunny molds for now. And then, like, once we find someone, we can do a Chubby Bunny mold. Like, okay, we can do that. So this pandemic, I've been super busy working on new comic books, working on some new comic strips, learning some new skills. Also been working on some freelance stuff since I am a graphic designer. Like one of my projects, I'm currently working on an animated intro for a YouTube channel for a friend of mine. So that's some good news right there.
He talked a little bit about it, but like, do you find it kind of weird, or no, or like, you know, like when you work on a comic that's kind of based on your life, how when you come up with ideas, do you want to like I don't know, exaggerate them, or like just make it more I don't know how to put that, you know, like I guess how similar are you to your fictional character?
I am very let's see. Depends on which character you're talking about because there's a Chubby Bunny and then there's Artist. Chubby Bunny is Chubby Bunny's Artist. She's the confident, sassy version of Artist. Artist is the low confident, shy, meek character. She wishes she was Chubby Bunny. And in a way, I'm basically both characters. Yeah, because I do have depression and anxiety. And the way I cope with is with my comic strips. So I just draw them Like if I'm having a bad day, I usually draw it with depression, anxiety, and imposter syndrome, just like bullying the crap out of me, pushing me back and forth. And then here comes Chubby Bunny cosplayed as a character like She-Ra, Wonder Woman. I think I had her cosplay as someone else at one point. She's dressed up, she takes on their powers and basically beats the living crap out of them. Kind of like, you know, you're when anxiety kind of just tells you you're not good enough, your confidence side just comes out and it's like, no. So I can say I'm pretty much kind of like my characters because I do have those moments where people or my mental illnesses sometimes just make me feel like I'm not good enough for anything. And my confidence side, which is Chubby Bunny, comes out and says, screw this crap. Look at all these fans. Look at your Instagram. Look at these people. I'm like, oh yeah.
That's great. I'm so glad you have Chubby Bunny to just come in and like shake you out of it.
Thanks.
Well, that's super great. Thank you so much for spending time with us. We really appreciate it. For everyone out there, you can get a hold of Kasuto Productions. Did I say that right?
Yes.
At www.kasutoproductions.com, Instagram /Kasuto Productions, twitter.com/chubbybunnyart, and you can purchase products at etsy.com/shop/Kasuto Productions.
Yes.
Any other links that you'd like to add?
I recently just revamped my Threadless shop because I currently don't have the resources to make t-shirts and tote bags. So I do have my popular designs on Threadless, which is also under Kasuto Productions. You can find that. I don't know up to what size they go to. So to all my plus size fans, I'm so sorry. I apologize in advance if they don't have your size. This is just temporary until I can start mass producing t-shirts with these designs. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Maxi. We really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time.
No problem. Thanks for having me.